Hi, Peter, and thank you so much for joining me today for the series of interviews with UK-based entrepreneurs. Recently, I started talking to entrepreneurs in tech industry, and it's always very challenging, let's say, for me, because I'm not even a bit technologically advanced. So my user experience is just social media, and basically that's it. So when it comes to talking about cybersecurity or cloud migrations or using different software for enhancing some, I don't know, companies' operations, I'm totally losing it. So could you please explain what your company does?
Sure. Hi, Anna, and thank you very much for having me today. Yeah, absolutely. I'm, as an entrepreneur, I've always been very passionate about technology and disruption and how technology affects people's lives. So my journey's gone back years across different sectors, but technology has been always the thing that really excites me. And I'm delighted to be working on a startup which has a really promising future. It's solving a big global challenge, and we have an amazing team that's really a pleasure to work with, and we are really enjoying our journey so far. So when it comes to what we're actually doing, I'm sure you're aware, and most people are aware nowadays, that cloud computing is the backbone of all new innovation when it comes to technology. Companies are evolving in their operations, in adopting new technology. And cloud computing is really, really key to that because it opens a whole world of possibilities. The challenge is that cloud migrations are very, very complex. It's a very complex process, requires very specific niche skills, which are in a huge global shortage worldwide. And for many companies, there are huge barriers to adopting the cloud. If you look at historically, since AWS first started the cloud some 14 years ago, with the others following after that, it's been mainly large enterprise companies that have transitioned, some in full, some partly, to the cloud, and also some startups which have founded natively from the cloud. However, there is a huge gap on the market, especially when it comes to SME companies, because those companies that have maybe been around for 5, 7 years, 10 years, and they're exploring how to transition and boost their organization's capabilities. But they're finding a big challenge because cloud migrations as a delivery are dominated by large consultancies. So we're talking companies like Accenture, Deloitte, DXC Technology, Cognizant, IBM, and countless others. And they all focus on large enterprise clients. They want multi-million-dollar contracts. When it comes to SMEs with more modest requirements, they're really beyond the reach financially and also for other reasons as well. So we started talking about Smart Migrator about 2 years ago with my co-founder and CTO. Himself, he's actually one of the leading experts in the field in Europe. He's had a very long-standing career at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and more recently DXC Technology. He was HP's first migration architect in Europe. He grew the whole EMEA team, and he's met some amazing people over the years that are now part of Smart Migrator. So throughout the years, he architected and delivered some of the biggest transformation projects for big multinational customers, battling with all the pains and challenges when it comes to enterprise scale transitions. And he came up with the idea behind Smart Migrator, which was to automate the whole process from start to end. Make it really, really simple. Cut away the human error, which is the main cause of all the pain and delays that are happening with transitions. And really make a simple platform that people can use, automating the whole process, making it painless, fast, and efficient. As an entrepreneur, I really like the idea. I knew quite a bit about the cloud because I follow new emerging technologies. And after doing some research, I found that the problem for SMEs is really, really severe. So we embarked on this journey to change the legacy way of how migrations are done, which is largely manual, and create a solution that solves the biggest pain points for them, which are essentially the high cost, not being able to afford the services of large consultancies, and also complexity. So what we're doing as Smart Migrator is giving them a platform that works, but it has a really, really intuitive and simple user experience. So they follow a simple step-by-step process that requires very little input. It's not advancedly technical, so anybody with basic IT skills, basic admin skills, would be able to manage it. And in a matter of no more than a couple of hours of effort in total, they can see their servers migrated to AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, migrated in at a fraction of the time that has been possible before now. Also, because of the full automation, the cost is drastically reduced. So we are solving that high cost challenge that historically has been around. Mm-hmm. So with Smart Migrator, we are enabling the transition to the cloud, which is so important for companies of any size. So anywhere from startups through SMEs and even large enterprises. We are still in the early days, but we foresee a lot of interest from large enterprise companies because they will be solving a huge problem in a much easier way and also saving millions of dollars in the process as well. So it's a very simple solution. We're all about simplicity and affordability and efficiency at Smart Migrator. We're all passionate about solving the big problem, and we're passionate about creating partnerships. So what we're doing at Smart Migrator is we are partnering with the big clouds, AWS and Oracle, already very excited to work with us and excited about what the future holds. And we also have a growing network of IT service providers internationally who are keen to have a more innovative solution to help their customers transition to cloud computing. So it's really, really exciting journey, and it's a huge global, fast-growing sector globally. Cloud computing, even though many people talk about it, is still in the very early days. Just last week, Andy Jassy, the CEO of AWS, was talking how still 96% of IT infrastructure spending is on-premise data centers. So only 4% of global IT spending is cloud computing related. So when people are thinking, what does the future hold? Well, mass cloud transition is certainly one area which will dominate the worldwide IT space for years to come. And we're so delighted to be part of this and to enable this transition to be easier and affordable for many, many companies worldwide.
It seems that Smart Migrator is on the trend in terms of in what industry you're operating, and it's gives probably you as an owner a lot of security for the company's future, which is great. Can you imagine, for example, producing fax machines now? It's not as fun as cloud migration. In terms of what services, you mentioned that company can move their services operations to clouds. I don't exactly understand. If you would try to explain it to the person who doesn't know anything about clouds and computers, how does it work? So I have a company, I have all my operations on my laptop. I have like database of clients. I have all my team members working in, for example, in Teams, in Microsoft Teams. They have different services to keep our data. For example, we use Google, we use just our own laptops. So we use Microsoft Teams as well. So it's kind of a bit different places, which I don't really like. It's divided. How would you explain to me what I can move to clouds, or it's not exactly for my type of business, or I should be bigger to do it?
Right. Where shall I start? I think firstly, there is a little bit of misconception what the cloud actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, many companies are using cloud services already. We're using one now. But most companies nowadays are using what are SaaS services, software as a service products. There is a distinct difference when companies are looking to adopt the cloud more actively, be that AWS or Google or Microsoft or any other cloud. It's effectively transitioning from keeping service on-premise, whether that's in a data center or whether that's in server rooms, because most companies, established companies, utilize applications, databases. Some products may be in the cloud, others would be on-premise. So by transitioning to the cloud, they're effectively moving all their infrastructure from their on-premise servers to the cloud. And the big difference is when companies are planning infrastructure that supports their business operations, it's all based on what is the peak usage demand that the company needs. So how many users are logging on to their websites using their products? What traffic do they need to support? How many users within the company are using those applications? So traditional infrastructure is based on the maximum demand usage that it needs to support. And in reality, the majority of the time, companies are only utilizing a fraction of the resources they have, but they pay upfront for all the hardware, for setting it up, for maintaining it every single week. So they have both staffing and other costs related to their infrastructure. If they need to change the infrastructure, which typically would mean increasing it because of growth, it is very inefficient. It requires a lot of time, again, a large upfront cost to purchase servers and all the other equipment, and the story goes on and on. What the cloud does is it shifts the way that IT resources are consumed. So instead of paying upfront and maintaining an infrastructure on-premise, you shift to a pay-as-you-go model. So in the cloud, which essentially are huge data centers globally that give you access to the same IT resources via the internet. That's essentially what the cloud is. But in the cloud, it's very, very agile. You can deploy resources in minutes rather than days or weeks. And you only pay for what you're using. So for example, instead of purchasing 10 servers, which you're utilizing only 20%, you may purchase just 1 or 2 servers in the cloud or virtual machines and set it up so that as soon as certain criteria are met, for example, you have a lot of extra traffic coming onto your website or users exceeding the limits of what those machines can achieve, it can automatically expand your infrastructure in the cloud. So you can push the efficiency of how you use your resources incredibly, close to 100%. And as a result, because you're only paying for what you're using, you can reduce the cost dramatically of your infrastructure. Another benefit of the cloud, which is really key, and for many companies, it's more important than the metal for metal comparison of cost reduction, is the staff productivity increase. In the cloud, because you can automate a lot of the management, and actually a lot of the services can be fully managed by the cloud provider, you no longer have to dedicate staff to manage servers, manage the hardware, all the infrastructure that you have, and they can instead focus on what really matters for growing the business. So in an IT department, quite often you have a lot of people moving about and doing tasks which are to manage the infrastructure rather than to develop products and services, which would benefit the company. So companies are seeing huge increase in productivity of their staff by moving to the cloud. And that links also with another of the big benefits of cloud computing, which is agility. In the cloud, you can build, test, environments. You can utilize cloud native services for research and development and testing. So companies are seeing, after moving to the cloud, a huge shortening of the time to market to bring new products. So some companies are reporting over 10 times faster product to market development by moving to the cloud. And that is a huge boost. It's probably the single biggest reason why some innovative large companies are moving to the cloud, because their productivity in product development and service development, it just goes through the roof. And that is why a lot of companies who are in the cloud have been so successful during the crisis we've had this year with the COVID-19 virus. It's simply they've managed to take opportunities, pivot strategies, develop products and services, and just take advantage of the situation. Look at Zoom, look at media streaming companies. They've managed to take advantage of the huge boost in usage of the services because they've been able to scale their infrastructure in the cloud so quickly. So many benefits. What we are solving is the transition to the cloud. So helping companies transition to the cloud faster, help them identify what the cloud can do for their business specifically, and what can they utilize that will enhance their operations, their service offering, their customer experience, because the cloud has so many services. I mean, just look at AWS and Microsoft alone. They have over 500 services between them. It's very easy to get lost and not understand what you need, what are the possibilities. So we are bridging that gap by both developing an innovative, fully automated solution that enables companies to transition to cloud computing, and also guide them along the way with what the cloud can do for their business specifically. And following migration, what are the possibilities, new emerging technologies which can help productivity, data analytics, machine learning, both big areas of development, and transforming what people can do with their data, how they interact with their customers. Just I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I was on a webinar which was joined between AWS and Formula One. And Formula One are a big customer of AWS. Being a passionate Formula One fan myself, I closely follow it. And they've recently done a lot of work on machine learning, which has had a huge dramatic improvement in the viewer experience, showing interactive analytics and interesting statistics in a very easy to digest way, live during the races. And it's just one way of boosting the experience of the customers. And in the future, many leaders are stressing that the successful companies will be those that focus on the customer experience and really going deep into solving the customer problems and how they can effectively help them grow their business, improve their operations, any efficiency gains that they can achieve through innovative technologies.
That sounds amazing. In terms of your desirable clients, do you have like a customer persona you are usually referring all your marketing or all your services to?
Sure. They vary quite a bit. Typically, depending on the size of the company, projects are driven typically by the senior IT leaders, typically the IT leader in the organization, whether that's an IT director, head of IT operations, or chief information officers. They would typically be responsible for the transition. But usually to achieve a successful transition, it involves a lot of internal organizational change. Because to have a successful transformation, it affects not just IT operations, but how the organization works going forward as with a new base of IT operations. So it's important in companies to create what's AWS, for example, referred to as an internal center of excellence, which means uniting the leaders and staff further down the chain of all key elements of the organizations. Typically, that'll be IT, finance, operations, customer success, and really making every member of the organization absolutely clear how this transition would benefit the company. So typically, personas would be senior IT leaders, but equally finance leaders are as well, because right now they're probably the most stressed out people in most organizations, trying to reduce costs, balance budgets. A lot of companies are in survival mode and really battling hard how to manage cash flow and survive this crisis that we're in, which now we're seeing the end of the light at the end of the tunnel with the new vaccines. But it's a big challenge, and this challenge will remain for some time. So we definitely focus on talking to IT leaders, but also finance leaders as well, and really making it clear that they need to be united in the organization so that people can see the productivity boost and all that other benefits they will have in the organization following this important transition.
What the size of organization we're talking about when it comes to IT leaders, financial leaders? We're saying it's already considered as a large organizations or very technical kind of driven organizations we're talking about here. If we're talking about SMEs. I used to work in financial industry in a financial organization, which was moving also to cloud. And I was working in digital transformation department. And it was very interesting. I remember how we went to the room with all the machines and coolers to cool all these machines, because it's like so much information and so much energy used to keep this information. And we were in the transition to clouds, and I remember that it was a big project, which includes, which wasn't like included also, as you mentioned, company reorganization. It was a lot of meetings with CTO, like all the departments. Like it was enormous project. So, but we're talking about large organization. When it comes to small organization, and as I understand, you're focusing on SMEs, what those organizations are?
Sure. We cover any scale companies. So at the moment, for example, with AWS, we are working with multiple teams that are within AWS startups. So we cover companies from startups, which often would mean moving from one cloud to another, because many startups are already built from the cloud. But the biggest, I would say the sweet spot is definitely established SMEs. Not necessarily towards the larger side, even smaller SMEs who are more likely to have been around for maybe 5-7 years at least, and have on-premise infrastructure, because moving from on-premise infrastructure to the cloud, this is the biggest gain for companies. And also it's established companies have a little bit of complexity in the infrastructure, some more than others. And they're the ones that are struggling the most to migrate to the cloud, because very few have the internal capabilities, and trying to find a solution because you're not able to afford the services of larger consultancies is a big challenge. Trying to find freelancers or small boutique providers. So we work with companies of any size, but definitely SMEs, which from small to medium, large, they are the ones that can benefit the most. And in those organizations, because they typically tend to be anywhere from 20 staff and upwards, they already have the organizational structure. So they have people responsible for finance, for IT, for operations, sales and marketing. And in a way, it's easier to get the transformational change internally, because they don't have all the red tape that big companies have. So they don't have the complex policies and procedures that can cause lots of delays and pain, which you've probably experienced in the example that you mentioned from your previous position. So yeah, we work with companies of any size, and we're on a mission to democratize the public cloud, transitioning to the cloud, and really change that shift from being reserved for really the richest and largest organizations, making it affordable and accessible to everybody. Because every single company, from a startup with only a few people to large organizations, everybody deserves to benefit from cloud computing and all the emerging technologies and possibilities.
Makes sense. I totally get you now, because I was a bit confused in the beginning in terms of what company are you basically helping to. In terms of how you contacting with, how do you find clients? What is your channels? Do you have already like a network of people you're working with? Do you do like campaigns, or what is your source of customers?
We are very much focusing on channel partnerships. We're big believers in partnerships, and it's undoubtedly the best way of scaling operations. So we are, on one hand, we're building partnerships and developing partnerships with the big cloud providers. We already have very good partnership with AWS, a little bit earlier stage with Oracle, and very, very earlier stage with Microsoft and Google. But aside from that, we are developing our own partner network, which is mainly focusing on IT service providers. So many service providers, system integrators, internationally, companies that are specialists in traditional technologies. A lot of them have Cisco, cybersecurity, other communications, quite often the SaaS services from Google and Microsoft for communication. And they're seeing new opportunities because more and more customers are looking to transition to cloud computing. So we have been attracting companies that see the value in what we're doing and the capabilities of our team, and they see this as an opportunity to enhance their service offering to their customers. For us as a startup, there's no better way than leveraging partners who have thousands and thousands of customers and working with them closely to help those customers transition to the cloud. So we have been attracting organizations internationally. Some are smaller, focusing on very, very small companies. Others are multi-billion-dollar organizations internationally. And we were recently participating in a cloud challenge event by one of the biggest telecommunications companies in Europe, who actually discovered us and approached us. So that is a very interesting opportunity that we are looking to explore further. So really, partnerships is the main focus. It's how Microsoft built their business and countless others. With that said, we, at the moment as a startup, we're trying all kinds of channels. I am not a big believer of cold outreach, so this is certainly not something that we want to focus on. We have done some attempts to reach out to companies via LinkedIn and other means. The challenge is that cloud migration is such a big strategic step. Many companies have put such spending and such decisions behind because they're focusing on immediate priorities, which strangely contradicts because senior IT leaders are stressing that moving to the public cloud should be one of the biggest and decisions that should be taken now because they will impact the bottom line of organizations. So we are doing a little bit of cold outreach at the moment, but going forward, our focus is on partnerships and also on developing thought leadership. So we want to build a very strong international presence, develop our brand, our reputation as thought leaders in our field. So we will be doing a lot of content and interactive activities across social media. We have a series of webinars that we're planning starting in January next year. So really spreading the message, making people aware that we exist. We have a strong team of global experts in migrations committed to helping them gain benefits from cloud computing. Transition is here.
That's really interesting. You mentioned partnerships and importance of moving to this direction. Just today, just before our call, I was working on the article for our website. And we are doing social media management and digital marketing for companies. And we're focusing on both B2C and B2B companies. And today because recently we had quite a lot of new tech clients. So it's surprising, but the majority of our clients are B2B tech companies, which I didn't expect to have at the beginning. I thought we're going to focus on B2C B2C companies which need presence in Instagram, like Facebook, nice pictures of food or products and stuff. But surprisingly, the majority of our clients are B2B tech companies which provide services for some reason. And today I was writing an article about what tools B2B companies should use to kind of get traction and to boost their brand awareness and image as an expert in industry on social media. And I will share with you the article. I'm not sure I posted it yet already. I wrote it, I put it on the website, but my team should add pictures because I don't do pictures. So I will share with you. Maybe you will get some ideas what to look at when you're doing social media and when you're looking for collaborations, because maintaining good expert image on social media is extremely important for companies to make collaborations, for companies to attract investors. And it's basically how B2B companies are supposed to behave on LinkedIn, because I know a few companies, and our company is B2B as well, but we were neglecting our own social media for so long because we had this network of people we know, a network of people who just come to us for referrals. So we don't necessarily put a lot of efforts in our social media. And at some point I was like, really? It's very weird when you have a marketing company and you don't do marketing for your own company. And we just start doing it, and it's amazing. It's really good, and I'm trying to kind of bring this to B2B clients, especially because it's when we talk about marketing, we always talk about B2C, but in fact B2B needs it as much or even more. I was wondering, when you talk with all these big corporations, because you're tackling quite a challenging industry with big players there already, with all these consultancies which working in the same field, how do you approach those cloud services? How do you approach Oracle or whoever you are trying to build relationship with?
Sure. Well, the way we approached the big clouds was through their partner programs. So all the big clouds have startup programs. In the case of Oracle, I happened to meet one of the leaders of the program at an event a year ago. But generally, the partner programs are very good, and through there you get to meet a lot of interesting people. It does take a lot of time and effort because these organizations are significant. You need to navigate complex webs of teams until you reach to the right people. But definitely, my experience has been, and we have approached the right strategies to start the bottom up. So start at startups, people in those organizations working with startups, and then gradually moving upwards. So Right now, we're working with the startups teams at the big clouds, and then we'll be progressing on to the SME teams as we build history and our reputation. But just coming back to what you mentioned, it was very interesting about the social media presence. It's so important. I totally agree with this. And when it comes to B2B, especially LinkedIn, head and shoulders above everything else. There's been so much research, and LinkedIn dominates more. It is greater in terms of the return on investment and the effect more than any of all the others combined. And in fact, I'm sure many people watching this will agree that any startup has a big challenge with trying to cope internally. There's so much that needs to be taken care of when your team is still small. You don't have the resources to expand. But my advice would be to definitely spend some time and effort on social media, and LinkedIn in particular. In our case, I'm the only non-technically focused person in our team. All the other members of my team are all strictly technical. So it's come on my shoulders to really drive some engagement on social media and LinkedIn in particular. But I've seen the effects already. Even before we have the resources for business development, sales, and marketing, some of the best contacts and potential partners and existing partners that we've built have come from LinkedIn connections. So it's really worth taking the time and effort for startups to start with LinkedIn and develop a presence. We only just now starting our own blog. So up to now, it's really been engaging on LinkedIn and posting interesting content. We're now starting to generate our own content, which we will be scaling as we expand. We're currently fundraising so we can scale our team and resources and really grow the team to what we want to be for our next stage of development.
That's great. I'm really always concerned about. I meet quite a lot of businesses for these interviews, and a part of this being a big part of our giving back to society kind of program. It's a lot of opportunity to network, which I crave because I love networking and I miss this. Networking events. I used to go with fellow entrepreneurs and just chat and like get inspired and just have this amazing collaboration sometimes come into life from all these networking events. And how you mentioned you met the lead of the program in Oracle just by chance, which is basically amazing. I think you have such a great opportunity now to kind of talk about it more. You have this personal connection, and what I always try to highlight when it comes to B2B, even though you are not selling to, well, when it comes to B2C, people think, okay, I'm selling to exact customer, it's one person, so it's about thinking what this person wants. And when it comes to B2B, business owners usually a bit confused. So they're like, okay, I'm B2B. Why do I need to be on social media? I'm selling to a company, so it's different. B2B is the same personal and relationship you need to build. In your case, with CTO or with company owner to explain how you can help them. So it's all about basically your reputation and your relationship and how people perceive you. And how people perceive you, it's a big part of what social media does. So I'm really so happy to hear that you understand what social media is, and it's not that often then people get it, especially from B2B sector. What I noticed that companies in tech industry understand it much better than B2B companies not from tech industries, which is really surprising. I mean, maybe not, maybe because you're close to technology, you understand how it works. I don't know, but it's really nice. Thank you, Piotr, for giving me hope and giving me good feedback on social media usage, because as a marketing as a lead of marketing company, it's really nice to hear. I'm gonna move us to the second part of the interview, where I'm gonna ask you 5, maybe 4, sometimes I forgot to ask 1 or 2 questions, part of the interview. It's very short personal questions, and if you wanna miss 1 or 2 because you're not comfortable to answer, that's fine, but try to answer as short as possible, 1, 2 words, 1 sentence.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, it's my favorite part. So the first question is, how do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself as a leader in an organization that is full of brilliant people, both professionally and culturally, and really inspiring them to make a change and believing in what we're doing. For me, people is everything. People are everything. So I see myself as leading an amazing team of people that are passionate and just we like a family. That's how I see myself.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Very nice. Do you have entrepreneurs in your family?
Yes, my father was an entrepreneur. He actually built one of the leading companies in Eastern Europe. I'm actually originally from Bulgaria. I should have said
Oh
that
my
earlier.
gosh, that's so
So
great.
I've been in the UK for about 24 years now, but I'm originally from Bulgaria. So my father, after long career, he actually started a number of businesses, and one of them was one of the first businesses in the automotive consumables aftermarket sectors, and today is one of the leading companies in the field. And I've been involved for many years restructuring, boosting operations. So it runs in the family, definitely.
Totally. First of all, I ask this question to everyone I talk to, and I talk about 100 people by now. So I have quite a database, I would say, and 90% of people I talk to coming from entrepreneurial families. So entrepreneurial gene is totally exists. Both my family and my co-founder's family are entrepreneurial as well. So it's really nice to hear that my statistics are on the right path. In terms of Bulgaria, first of all, wow, because my grandma, she's Bulgarian. So it's very nice to hear.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm originally from Russia, and I moved to UK 3 years ago, already a bit more than 3, I guess, and we are based in Glasgow. So very nice to hear that, there is some kind of random connections. We both somehow, like, you're much more related to Bulgaria than me, but still we have this little gene group coming from Eastern Europe, from Bulgaria to here. It's very nice.
Absolutely. And building on from amazing founders that have come from Eastern Europe. I mean, look at some of the big unicorns that we have. Yeah. TransferWise, Revolut, they come from Eastern European founders.
Yeah, true. Revolut is such a good example. It's my favorite, from the last ones. So maybe your company will be my favorite next. So I wish you the best luck in this direction. In terms of my next question, do you consider to live in different places? And if yes, to which places?
Well, one of my passions has always been exploring planets. So I take the opportunity whenever I get free opportunity to explore with my family. To be honest, I like London and UK in general, but I'll be very keen to spend some time in the US. Not sure where exactly, because I hear different opinions from different people, but certainly it'll be interesting to spend a bit of time living in the US and see how it is. And it's every opportunity and every chance that this will happen, because there will come a time with what we're building that the US will be a huge market for us, and we'll have presence in the near future there.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about opportunities for your startup. It will be something like maybe accelerator program in something like 500 accelerators, or Y Combinator based on MIT or something like that. They have amazing programs for tech-based, tech-driven startups as yours. Yeah, that's. I think California and San Francisco. It's warm, nice, dry. Good for health, but too expensive right now for me personally, sadly. Yeah, interesting. Thank you so much, Peter.
Certainly. No, San Francisco is very interesting. Actually, some of the potential partners we're talking to are based in San Francisco, and a little bit further in Vancouver in Canada as well. And there's a big shift away from San Francisco at the moment. Mainly because of cost, but also this remote way of working has shifted the way people operate, and more companies are having remote staff spread internationally and not focused on a central base in San Francisco. But that said, I see long term that it will still retain its glory, because the connections you get in San Francisco and the area, the investment base, it's unmatched anyway globally. So, but there are other great places in the US as well.
Totally, but San Francisco, yeah. Peter, thank you so much for joining me today in the series of interview.